You're listening to Play Therapy Community Podcast, episode 64.
Welcome to Play Therapy Community Podcast, providing connection, information, and inspiration to child therapists all around the world. Here's your host, a licensed psychotherapist, a registered play therapist, and my mom, Jackie Flynn.
This episode is brought to you by Jackie Flynn Consulting. I provide consultation to EMDR therapists seeking support with challenging cases, desiring to hone their skills, or working towards certification. As a registered play therapist and an EMDR consultant in training, helping clinicians that work with children and adolescents is at the heart of my work. If you're already trained in EMDR therapy and you'd like to consult on how to integrate it with play therapy while still being true to all 6 phases of EMDR and delivering it with fidelity, go to my website, JackieFlynnConsulting.com, to schedule an appointment. You can also get a free download on there of a PDF that I created to help kids do the body scan in phase 6 so you can target those somatic areas as part of your work. I would love to work with you. All right, now back to our episode. Hi there. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Play Therapy Community Podcast. Well, at the time of this recording, it's October, and all of the pumpkin stuff is starting to come out. One of my very favorite times of the year. I live in Florida, so we don't get to see the leaves change, but my daughter and I are getting ready to travel up to Illinois to see my sister, and hopefully we get to see some of the seasonal changes up there while we're with her up there. It's beautiful. Okay, so today's episode is really based on a recent presentation that I was honored to join Dr. Stacy Van Horn from University of Central Florida and Diana Shaw, also from University of Central Florida, in at the Florida Counseling Association Conference this year. We're also planning to write a workbook for school counselors eventually on the same topic. This is a collection of just some quick play therapy techniques that don't require a lot of materials. They're low cost, they're low preparation, and they're brief in nature. So I'm just going to kind of go through each one briefly. If you would like the written version of this, you can find those in the show notes at playtherapycommunity.com. Well, the first one is double mirror doodle. This one supports the synchronization of the right and the left hemisphere of the brain, and it really helps the child process through difficult situations and get past things that maybe they're feeling stuck in. So this requires 2 materials. It requires a large piece of paper, and sometimes I'll use the whiteboard instead, and either markers or crayons. So you have them pick out 2 different colors of their either markers or crayons, some writing utensil, and have them place both hands in the center of the paper so they have a crayon or marker in each hand, and just do a double mirror doodle. And by doing this, it allows that synchronization to occur, which is grounding, helps the client with focus and clarity just through that bilateral integration of the brain. It helps the information flow over the corpus callosum. I usually do this at the end of the session to kind of pull the client together so that when they leave out, they're like fully grounded and ready to do whatever they're going to do after the session. So that is the double mirror doodle. I was really inspired by the double labyrinth that I have, and you can find a link at playtherapycommunity.com of where you can get labyrinths for 20% off through Relax for Life. Labyrinths are excellent. Okay, the next one is what happened next. And I created this one based on the concept of processing through traumatic events. Trauma can store itself in the brain in chunks and images and come out really choppy, which prevents fully processing and can cause the client to feel stuck on certain issues, regardless of age. So when we do that, they call it taking the low road of processing. So it's not fully able to just work itself through. And this what happened next activity helps it to go through that higher level thinking part of the brain. You're moving it through that top down from the prefrontal cortex on down to the limbic system. So what happened next? You just have them take that large piece of paper and fold it in half and fold it in half. Keep folding it in half until they have 8 small squares. And it's just a sequential unfolding of events. So you have them think of whatever it was that happened. It may be an argument that they got into, some type of conflict, or their divorce at home in their family, or some friendship issues, or forgetting their lines in the drama play. Whatever it is that they're coming into you for help with, you have them think of it as an episode with a beginning and an end. And then you have them sequentially draw out each one in each one of the boxes, different parts of that event. So I always have them use their non-dominant hand to draw, unless there's like great anxiety about drawing in a messy way. Sometimes children and adults it creates a lot of anxiety to use that non-dominant hand if they have like struggles with perfectionism. But if they use their non-dominant hand, it engages another part of the brain that usually isn't as deeply involved in that problem-solving process. So the non-dominant hand can help them maybe gain greater insight than they would otherwise. So it may sound like this. In the first square, they've identified the episode as, this morning, on the way to school, they had an argument with their parent and they forgot their science project, and now they feel like they're going to fail the 6th grade. So what happened first? Well, first I woke up late. Okay, let me have you draw that in that first block. Okay, what happened next? Next, my mom was yelling at me. Remember, we're looking at it through the child's perception. My mom was yelling at me to hurry up and get ready or we're going to be late. Okay, so let me have you draw that in the number 2 block. What happened next? Well, I and it may sound a little bit choppy. I got yelled. Say, okay, let's slow down. What happened right after it felt like your mom yelled at you? And then you'll have them draw that piece and just kind of work through each different piece of that whole episode until you want that last square to really kind of end up where they are right at that moment seeing you, if it's recent. Or, definitely at the end of the, defined episode. And what that does, it allows it to just reprocess through that top down in a very sequential way. I got this information from Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, the sequential piece. This play therapy technique was inspired by that, knowing that it really has to be processed in that top-down way. Also, Dr. Dan Siegel, I had the honor of seeing him in Tampa, Florida recently, a wonderful presentation. And also he talked about the importance of just being able to have that narrative and tell the story. So that inspired, both of those, inspired the what happened next. And again, only 2 inexpensive materials, the paper and the writing utensils. Okay, the next one is based on the Jenga game. This one is like conversational prompts that goes with that. So there's a lot of stuff on Pinterest and online with different ideas. But using those blocks, and you can call it Tumbling Tower since Jenga is it's a game with a name trademarked and everything like that. So you can call it like Tumbling Towers or block conversation prompts, whatever works best for you. So you can use this idea to address just any issue really that can be supported through exploration. So what we really gave examples of using it for like coping skills, social situations, icebreakers, friendship skills, things of that nature. Also, when I was a school counselor, I used them for like family changes groups, so many different variations. So you buy the blocks, and if you're using a Jenga set or the generic version of it, you just buy the blocks and you take a Sharpie and write numbers on the end of each block. So 1 on one block, 2 on one block, and then 3, 4, all the way. Each block has its individual numbers. And then you make up a sheet that has several prompts on it. And you use this sheet to reference when you're playing the game. So if you're playing with a child and suppose that it's an emotional game and you're looking to support their emotional literacy, which is super important. Like Dr. Siegel says, to name it is to tame it. So when you have them explore their emotions and while they're feeling them and naming them, it can help their brain create new connections. So you take the block, like as you're playing, the child pulls the block or you pull the block, because remember, you want it to be interactive, so you'll be playing the game as well with the child, or if you're in a group, everybody will be playing it. And whatever number that you get on that block, you then look at the sheet and then you call out whatever that is. So suppose that I pull the number 5 block, and on number 5, I look and it says guilty. Okay, so that's the emotion of guilty. Well, let's talk about what guilty is in a time that maybe either I felt guilty or I seen somebody else feel guilty, or what that may feel like with someone, what it feels like in their body. You really kind of go to where the child needs to go on this. Sometimes it's just merely defining it and learning about it. And sometimes it's bringing up different issues in their life. And they may say, well, I've never felt guilty. And you just kind of notice that too. And then you go back and forth. Now, it's important that the child may not be comfortable responding to some of these emotions if they're not ready to kind of go to that space, and you want to be respectful of that. So if they pull a block, suppose it's guilty or hurt, say, tell me about that. What does hurt mean? When's a time maybe that you felt hurt and they don't want to say anything? Just reflect that. Say you'd rather not say anything right now. And that creates that element of safety and that environment of I can trust you. So you want to be real gentle with the process. Less is more in many respects. So that's the conversational prompts with the blocks. For that, you will have the opportunity to be so creative. So you just suppose if there's 26 blocks, you just make a sheet with 26 prompts on whatever subject that you want. I had that big, large Jenga game for the backyard that I did it with, and I brought that to the conference. So we all just kind of sat around and pulled those large blocks. That was nice. Those are kind of cumbersome to carry around. They're still in the trunk of my car right now. Okay, so for that, you only need the blocks game and a Sharpie, and then the sheets made up. You can find some pre-written sheets up on the internet in different places, and I have sheets as well. Okay, so the next one is pickup straws. And this was Dr. Van Horn's idea. It's just an adaptation to that previous one of the conversational starters. So the straws are very inexpensive, but you could also do pickup sticks, which are maybe a little bit more costly. But whatever one you use, you just have them pick one up, look at the color, and then go to the sheet and respond to a prompt that goes with that color. Now, you can use the same prompts that you used in that Jenga game beforehand, but instead of numbered, they would be color-coded. So suppose that there's red, blue, green, and yellow. You may want to just make a quarter of the prompts yellow. You can use your highlighter, a quarter of the prompts red, a quarter prompts blue, and then green for the rest. And then they have a greater choice. If they pick blue, they just look in the blue section and pick one that they're most comfortable with. It gives them a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more control. And as we're working with clients or students that are seeking control, that can be really helpful. And for that, you only need straws and that that sheet that has all of the different prompts written up on it, and it can be used for so many different topics: coping skills, social skills, test taking strategies, emotional literacy, just so many things. It like the sky's the limit on that. Your imagination really can go wherever it needs to go. Okay, so this next one is also created by Dr. Van Horn, and it is career charades. She uses a lot of career-based things in her work, helping her master's level students that are in the school counseling program to help really learn about different careers. So this is usually a school-based one, but you have them like as a group, whether it's like an entire classroom or a small group, they act out whatever it is, and the group, in that charades fashion, guesses what it is. So this one can be used for career shades or adapted charades, or adapted to some other topic. If it's very kinesthetic, very fun, and the only thing that you need for this in terms of materials is just to have little slips of papers with like the careers written on them, or if you're doing something else, you would just need whatever it is that you're doing, the little keywords written down so they know what to act out. This can be also used for an icebreaker, and it can bring groups together because there's a lot of laughter and a lot of fun. It can help form that group therapy connectedness that is so essential for group therapy to really be productive. Okay, so this next one was super fun, also kinesthetic. Dr. Van Horn's idea of career sculptures. At first she had called them career creations, but in the end she decided to go with career sculptures, and she just had the people in the presentation, but she does this with her students there at the University of Central Florida, take Play-Doh and create something that represents a part of a career. Now, as a registered play therapist, I love the idea of using clay, and the symbolism of different objects can be so very powerful. So you could really adapt this in any way. The only material that you need for this is clay or Play-Doh, and then you just kind of go from there. The symbolism can be so very powerful. Okay, so the next one I really learned about in my master's program. I learned about it in a play therapy class as well as the practicum, and it's something that I use every day, and it's very inexpensive, and it's a thumb ball. I made one up for values, I made one up for emotions, and I also have an icebreaker one. So you need a large air-filled ball. I like to use soccer balls because I like the different little shapes where you can write something individual in each one of those. You could also use a beach ball. You can also use one of those just big round squishy balls that you just write random things in different places. So for this, the materials that you need, the ball and the permanent marker to go on there. So what happens is you have them, I do it one-on-one with my clients. I do it with families. When I was a school counselor, I did it classroom guidance, small groups. Really, you can use this for anything. When I was a teacher, I actually used this with the entire class to study with. So you have them toss it to each other, and wherever the right thumb lands, they respond to whatever it is on the right thumb. So suppose they're using my emotional literacy ball, I will have them toss it to each other, and wherever the right thumb lands, they just they say the emotion, what that emotion means, a time when either they or somebody else has felt that emotion that they know of, and how that emotion feels in your body. You can really kind of put that somatic experiencing piece in it, which can really take that healing to the next level. That curiosity of how emotions hold themselves in the body can help us access things that may otherwise remain stuck. That is really low cost. The last one that I bought was maybe $6, and I used it two times yesterday in session. Really good stuff. Okay, the next one is called Fishing for Solutions. And this is, you just take, I used foam, those little thin foam things, or you can use paper, but you cut them in the shape of fish. And you put a little magnet on it, and you can make a little fishing pole. I used a dowel rod, some twine, and another magnet. And on each fish, you write a response or a prompt. So it may look like emotions, or just you can use the same ones that you used for the Jenga game or for the pickup straws. It's just another way, a playful way to really bring a focus into whatever it is that you want the child to work on. Also, I like to use a large metal bucket. So like they caught the fish, and then afterwards we put each fish in the bucket. Gives us a really good idea of kind of how much they've worked through already, but also it allows us to not pick the same one over and over again. And if you want to get real creative, you can use a blue cloth under it to represent the water. So that one it's low cost, costs a little bit more than the other ones. Takes about, I would say about 45 minutes to create, 30 or 45 minutes, but you can use it over and over again. All right, the next one, I love this. I learned about these at an art therapy training for grief and loss, and it's mandalas. I love mandalas. You can use mandalas with so many different materials, but specifically for this, we used a large sheet of paper, and just have them find something. You might even want to have it pre-printed out, a circle on there, or find a circle and trace it. And this is very non-directive. They just draw whatever it is that they want to put in on the paper. It doesn't even have to be in the circle, but the circle is like the center, the focal point. When you do this, you really see things that maybe otherwise would have been hidden. That non-directive approach allows for whatever they need to work on or where they need to go. It allows that to come out. Also, I use mandalas in family sessions by having everybody pick out their own color of crayon, draw. I put them all on, give them each a mandala circle, just a circle on a white piece of paper, and a clipboard, and have them draw for 1 minute something on the paper. And then at 1 minute, I have them give it to the person to their right, and then they draw. And then 1 minute later, they move it to the right until it's rotated through the whole family. And what this does, it creates unity, but also you can see any kind of like anxieties about somebody kind of, doing something to their creation that they didn't like. You get a lot of rich information through there, but a lot of opportunities to kind of just explore what struggles that the family are going through. It's amazing how something so simple can be so very helpful. Okay, so this next one is the positive I am activity. And this one, I was first exposed to this in Dr. Van Horn's Counseling Children and Adolescents class at University of Central Florida. And I used it, I was a teacher at that time, and I used it with my students, but now I use it with my individuals that I work with, particularly teenagers, and it really gives me an idea of how they perceive themselves. So I wrote up a bunch of little just strips of paper, and on there, I'm in certified EMDR therapist, so I work a lot with the cognitions, negative and positive cognitions, but I write many of the positive cognitions on these little strips of paper. It may look like I am confident, I am good enough, I'm fine just the way that I am, I'm worthy, I'm a good person. So you just write up several of those, maybe like 18 or 20, and then you have them just kind of put them in order on how true they feel. And I stick to positive cognitions. That way it can kind of resource that maybe on a deeper level. But when they prioritize it, what's on top is what feels really strong. And as they go down, it starts to get less and less to the bottom feels weak. So you can explore, okay, tell me about this one. I noticed this one's on the bottom. I noticed this one's on top. So you're just really exploring that person's self-concept and how they are feeling, at least at that point in time, about themselves. So for that, you just need paper and a pen or a pencil pencil, or you could print them out. Very inexpensive and very quick to make. I use the positive cognition list for EMDR, and you can Google that. But I use that to really guide my statements I put on there. But you could use whatever feels right for you. Okay, this is the last one that I'm going to talk about today, but there's so many, many more. When we actually write the book and put it out, I'm going to share it with you guys, so there'll be like a more comprehensive selection. But this one's the self-talk thought bubble. And years ago, I saw this on Pinterest, and it's just fantastic. I used it in the school setting, but also I used it I use it currently in my play therapy practice. You take a big, large piece of poster board. I like to use the thicker kind because as you use it, it kind of gets bent up and everything. Take a large piece of poster board and you shape it like a dialogue bubble. And then you put a hole in the middle of it that fits their face. And then you just kind of hold it up to your face and you talk about positive self-talk, negative self-talk, and the comments that we make in our brain. And with sticky notes, you have them, and I do sticky notes instead of writing directly on there because I want to reuse it. But with sticky notes, you have them just write some of the thoughts that goes through their brain. So it may look like I'm stupid, I'm not good enough, or I'm a good friend, I can do it, whatever it is that they're going through. And that helps support that psychoeducational piece of self-talk, but also that therapeutic piece of really getting in there and seeing how healthy or unhealthy their self-talk is and be able to modify that in a way that can really support their well-being. Okay, so that's all of the techniques that I have to share today, but there are so many more. I may do another episode on that. If you have a technique that I didn't mention here, or just a spin on something that I mentioned here, I would love if you could join, or I would like you to join anyway, our Play Therapy Community closed Facebook group, but post that in that group so that we could all kind of share that. It's such a big world, but a small world of therapists. We want to bring it together, make it even smaller so we can share these things that can help us to best help our clients. So that Facebook group, you just Google Play Therapy Community and group, and then you could request to join and I'll approve you, and we could just share all the resources that we can in there. All right, so if you would like the show notes for this, you could find those at playtherapycommunity.com. And I thank you so much for listening to this, and I look forward to seeing you here again. Take care.
To join our growing community for free, just go to playtherapycommunity.com and find us on Facebook too.
Thanks for listening to the Play Therapy Community Podcast. Until next time, bye!